This happened 3 months ago in Fairfield, Connecticut. My wife Maria and I closed on a 4-bedroom colonial that we got for $425,000. Houses in that neighborhood were selling for over $700,000. The bank said the previous owner vanished before foreclosure, no forwarding address, no contact. They just wanted it gone. We moved in with our 2 kids. Sophie's 9, Nathan's 7. 3 weeks later, we started renovations. Our contractor, Mike, was installing a new bathroom exhaust fan when he called me. His voice sounded off. "David, you need to come home, now." I left work early. Mike was standing in the hallway outside the master bathroom, holding something small in his hand. A camera, pinhole lens, wired into the electrical system. "Found it behind the vent cover," he said. "Professional grade." I laughed it off initially. Maybe the previous owner had security concerns, but Mike wasn't smiling. "Check the bedroom," he told me. We found 2 more, one in the smoke detector, another behind the cable outlet plate. That's when I stopped laughing. The guest bathroom had 1 inside a decorative air freshener, 3 in the living room. We were finding them in every single room we checked. Then we got to the kids' bedrooms. Sophie's room had 3 cameras. Nathan's had 4. One was positioned inside a stuffed animal that had been left behind, sitting on the shelf, facing his bed. Our children had been sleeping in those rooms for 3 weeks. Maria started hyperventilating. I called the police. While we waited, Mike pulled out his phone and ran a Wi-Fi scanner app. 17 active wireless signals popped up, all encrypted, all transmitting. "These aren't just recording," Mike said quietly. "They're live streaming right now." Detective Sarah Winters arrived with 2 other officers. She'd been with Fairfield PD for 15 years. Later, she told me she'd never encountered anything like this in a private residence. The cyber crimes unit found a server hidden behind a false panel in the basement, multiple hard drives, a dedicated internet connection separate from the main house line, software designed to capture and stream video to external IP addresses. 47 cameras total throughout the house. 23 were actively streaming. The footage was being sent to servers in Romania and the Czech Republic, untraceable. But the worst part was the storage. 7 years of footage. The previous owner, Marcus Delacroix, a 52-year-old software engineer, had been recording every family who lived there, everything they did, every private moment, thousands of hours. Delacroix had boarded a flight to Prague 3 weeks before foreclosure proceedings. Interpol hasn't located him. Detective Winters believes he was running an illegal voyeurism operation, probably selling footage on the dark web. When his finances collapsed, he fled rather than face prosecution. "We can't live in that house anymore." Maria won't shower there. She can't put the kids to bed knowing they were recorded while they slept. Even with every camera removed, even after having the place swept multiple times by professionals, she can't unsee it. We moved out 4 weeks after the discovery. The house is tied up in litigation now. We're suing the bank, but proving they knew about the surveillance is nearly impossible. Sophie won't sleep without lights on. Nathan won't change clothes unless he's in a closet with the door completely shut. They're both in therapy. The bank discounted that house because nobody could live there knowing what happened. We just didn't know it yet. How many nails would it take to convince you that someone desperately wanted a crawl space to stay sealed forever? My wife Linda and I bought a retirement home in Crescent Valley, Oregon last March. Population 847, a 1970s ranch on 12 acres backing up to National Forest. The price was $215,000 for all that land. It seemed impossible. During the final walkthrough, the bank representative Patricia was professional until we reached the hallway. There was a small padlocked door built into the wall, maybe 2 feet by 3 feet. I asked what it was. Patricia's demeanor completely changed. She got very serious. That's the crawl space access. It's sealed. Whatever you do, don't open it. The bank's legal team specifically instructed me to tell you that opening it voids certain liability protections. I asked what was down there. She shook her head. Nothing that concerns you now, just don't open it, please. We signed the papers anyway. The house was perfect otherwise. For 2 months, we didn't think about it. Too busy unpacking, settling into retirement, meeting neighbors. But that door was always there, in the hallway, padlocked. It started bothering Linda in May. She'd walk past it every day wondering what Patricia meant. Sealed for a reason. What reason? I was worried about foundation issues, or mold, or asbestos, something structurally wrong the bank didn't want liability for. We discussed it for 3 weeks. Finally, on a Sunday morning, I cut the padlock. The smell hit us immediately. Musty, stale air that hadn't circulated in years. Underneath that was something else, like a room that hadn't been cleaned in forever. I grabbed a flashlight and opened the door fully. Standard crawl space at first. 3-foot clearance, dirt floor, support beams. Except the back right corner. Someone had built walls down there. Plywood partitions sectioning off maybe 8 by 6 feet. A tarp for a ceiling, and inside a sleeping bag. Someone had been living in the crawl space. I called our son Eric in Portland. He's a contractor. He arrived 3 hours later with proper lighting. What we found changed everything. The partition section contained a sleeping bag and pillow, 3 5-gallon buckets, 1 empty, 2 with human waste, a camping lantern, about 40 water bottles, mostly empty, a portable camping stove, at least 50 cans of food stacked neatly. Like a survival bunker, whoever was down there had been planning to stay. Then Eric found the journals. 7 composition notebooks stacked on a plywood shelf. I opened the first one. The handwriting was shaky but legible. First entry dated September 12th, 6 years ago. The house is contaminated. I can feel it in the air. I can't sleep upstairs anymore. The bedroom especially. Something is wrong with the bedroom. Moving to the crawl space temporarily until I figure out what's happening. The entries continued for months. The previous owner, Dale Hutchinson, had gradually convinced himself the main house was contaminated with something he couldn't identify. Feeling ill when sleeping in the bedroom. Sensing vibrations from the walls. Hearing sounds he attributed to electrical fields, gas leaks, eventually something supernatural. He mentions paying for air quality tests, EMF readings, radon testing, mold inspection. Everything came back normal, but he didn't believe the results. He thought the contamination was something science couldn't measure. The final year described Dale's complete withdrawal, stopped sleeping upstairs, then stopped using the upstairs bathroom, stopped cooking in the kitchen, eventually living entirely in the crawl space, only emerging for mail and groceries. The final entry was November 3rd. They're taking the house. I stopped paying the mortgage 4 months ago because I won't finance a contaminated structure. My savings are gone, lost my job, but I can't leave. If I leave, I'll never know what it was. I'll never know what happened to me here. Dale Hutchinson died of heart failure in April. He was 63. They found his body in the crawl space, in the sleeping bag, flashlight still gripped in his hand. We reported everything to police. The journals were logged as evidence. No crime had been committed. We hired 3 separate companies to test the house: air quality, toxic mold, electromagnetic fields, radon, carbon monoxide, structural integrity. Every test came back clean, exactly like Dale's tests. We still live here. We sealed the crawl space access again, padlock and wooden boards nailed across the door. Linda doesn't sleep well in the master bedroom anymore. Same bedroom where Dale first noticed the contamination. She started sleeping in the guest room instead. I think she's being irrational. Every test says the house is fine. But sometimes late at night, I think about how certain Dale was. 7 journals full of observations, and this absolute conviction that something was wrong. What if there is something we can't test for, something science doesn't understand yet? Linda can't stop thinking about Dale's last journal entry, that he died not knowing what happened to him. Because what if it's happening to us too? What if we just don't realize it yet? I'm Jennifer, 52, recently divorced after 26 years of marriage. I needed to start over somewhere new. Found Savannah, Georgia by accident and fell in love with it. Got a teaching job at a private school there. That's when I found the Victorian on Monterey Square. Built in 1887, 3 stories, original pine floors, working pocket doors, a turret with stained glass. Foreclosed 18 months prior, listed at $340,000, easily $200,000 below market. My realtor warned me there were circumstances. The previous owner, Vivian Hartwell, 74, had died in the house. She'd been a widow, lived there 40 years with her husband, Edward. After Edward died, Vivian became reclusive, eventually stopped leaving entirely, died of a stroke, found 3 days later. Tragic, but I could handle that. Then my realtor added, the attic access has been nailed shut, sealed. The home inspector tried opening it but gave up after removing 20 nails. It was sealed from the outside, which means whoever did it didn't want anyone going up, or didn't want something coming down. The bank was selling as is. Whatever was in the attic would be mine to deal with. I made an offer anyway. Moved in on a Sunday in June. The house was beautiful, dusty and outdated, but structurally sound with original Victorian details. The attic access was in the 2nd floor hallway, right outside my bedroom. Standard pull-down door with a rope handle. Except you couldn't pull it down. It had been nailed shut with 87 6-inch framing nails driven at aggressive angles through the frame. Whoever did this meant for it to stay sealed. I ignored it for a month, too busy unpacking, preparing lesson plans, exploring Savannah. But in July, the heat became oppressive. The 3rd floor was stifling despite 2 AC units. I kept thinking about ventilation. Maybe the attic had airflow issues. Plus, storage would be useful. I bought a crowbar and claw hammer. Took 3 hours to remove all 87 nails. Some were driven so deep I had to drill out the wood around them. By the time I pulled the last one, my hands were blistered and the floor was covered in splinters. I pulled the rope. The attic stairs folded down smoothly. Cold air washed over my face. At least 15 degrees colder than the hallway, which didn't make sense. Heat rises. The attic should have been the hottest part of the house. I climbed up with a flashlight. The attic was finished, fully finished. Drywall, ceiling lights, electrical outlets, like a studio apartment. And it was furnished. Twin bed against the far wall made up with sheets and a quilt, a dresser, a rocking chair positioned directly facing the attic door, a small table with a lamp, a bookshelf stacked with novels. The bed faced the door. The chair faced the door. Everything arranged so whoever was up here would be looking at the exit at all times. It felt like the furniture was watching, like whoever set this up wanted to see if anyone tried to come up. or if anything tried to come down. On the small table was a composition notebook. I opened it, elegant, old-fashioned cursive. First entry dated March 14th, 5 years prior. Edward died 3 months ago. The house feels different. I hear him sometimes. His footsteps in the hallway, the sound of his chair in the study. I know it's grief. I know my mind is playing tricks, but the sounds are so real. Months of entries followed. Vivian hearing sounds after her husband's death. Footsteps, doors opening and closing, someone moving through rooms. I've searched top to bottom, had the police come. They find nothing, but I hear him, I hear Edward, he's still here. By summer, the sounds intensified, feeling watched, seeing shadows move peripherally, waking to breathing sounds in the room. In September, 2 years before her death, Vivian wrote, "I know where he is, the attic. I can feel him strongest on the second floor, right below the attic access. He's waiting for me." She started spending time up there, talking to the empty room, setting up furniture so she could sit and be with Edward. Then something changed. "He's angry, I don't know what I did. The sounds are different now, not gentle footsteps, heavy, stomping, slamming. He threw books off the shelf, knocked over the lamp. I think he wants me to join him. I think he's tired of waiting." The final 20 pages detailed Vivian's growing terror. She became convinced Edward's spirit had turned malevolent, that he was trying to pull her into death, that if she spent too much time in the attic, she wouldn't be able to leave. "I have to seal it, it's the only way. If I seal the attic, he can't get out, he can't reach me, he'll be contained. I'm sorry, Edward, I'm so sorry, but I can't join you yet." Final entry dated June 8th, the day she died. "I'm sealing the door today. I've purchased enough nails to make sure it never opens again. Forgive me." I contacted Vivian's daughter Margaret in Charleston. She was 58, had spent years trying to get her mother into assisted living. "My mother was not well," Margaret said. "After Dad died, she deteriorated rapidly. Paranoia, hallucinations, probably early dementia. She refused to leave. She died sealing that attic door. The medical examiner said she had a massive stroke while hammering. Found her at the base of the stairs, hammer in hand, nails scattered everywhere." I asked if Margaret wanted any belongings from the attic. "Burn it," she said flatly. "Burn all of it. My mother was sick. That attic is just a symptom. There's nothing up there but grief and delusion." I removed everything, donated the books, threw away the journals. The attic access stays unsealed now. I use it for storage. But I don't go up there at night. And I replaced the rope pull because I couldn't stand touching the one Vivian used. The one she pulled down thousands of times, climbing up to sit in that rocking chair and talk to her dead husband. Sometimes when the house is very quiet, I hear it, just for a second, the sound of a rocking chair, the creak of old wood flexing under weight. I know it's the house settling, old pipes, shifting foundation, my imagination. But for just a second I think, what if Vivian was right? What if she did seal something in that attic? And what if I let it out? This happened 3 months ago. Every night since we moved in at exactly 3:47 a.m., every electronic device in our house turns on. My wife Jessica and I bought a split level in Farmington Hills, Michigan for $285,000. Our son Kyle, 24, was living with us while finishing his MBA. Solid house, good neighborhood. The previous owner was Gary Feldman, 58, an accountant. Worked for the same firm 32 years. According to public records, he'd purchased the house in 2008 and never missed a mortgage payment. Until June of last year, then he just stopped. The bank said Gary hadn't even tried to negotiate. No hardship application, no request for forbearance, just stopped paying. 9 months later, foreclosure. Here, what made it strange? Gary's financial records from the estate sale showed he had over $140,000 in savings when he stopped making payments. He could have paid off the mortgage entirely. The realtor's explanation was early onset dementia or mental breakdown. Gary had moved out 8 months before foreclosure finalized, rented a 1-bedroom in Royal Oak, died there 3 months later, heart attack, alone, no family. Seemed sad but not suspicious. We got a good house at a good price. It started the third night. I woke up at 3:47 a.m. to the television in our bedroom turning on. Loud, maximum volume, blaring static. Thought Kyle was messing around, but he was asleep upstairs. Jessica woke up next to me. I turned it off with the remote, went back to sleep. Next night, 3:47 a.m., TV turned on again. Same volume, same static. I unplugged it before bed, didn't matter. At 3:47 a.m., the radio in Kyle's room started blaring. The kitchen radio, the garage radio, all simultaneously, all static or random stations at maximum volume. We unplugged everything, turned off breakers, removed batteries from devices. It didn't matter. Every night at exactly 3:47 a.m., every electronic device activated. TVs turned on, radios blared, phones rang with no caller ID, computers booted up. The doorbell rang continuously, motion sensor lights flickered. The garage door opened and closed repeatedly. Like the house was screaming. We called electricians, 3 different companies. Each examined the wiring, breaker box, grounding. The electrical system is fine, they all said. There's no logical reason for this. One guy stayed overnight with diagnostic equipment. At 3:47 a.m., everything activated. His equipment showed no power surge, no voltage spike, no external signal. They just turned on. I started researching the house history. That's when I found Gary Feldman's emails. Through the estate liquidator, I got access to his email account. What I found was a year-long descent into desperation. First email mentioning it was April 14th, 8 months before Gary stopped paying. Hey Tom, weird question. Does your house ever do strange things at night? Electronics turning on by themselves. Been happening about a week. Always at 3:47 a.m. Thinking electrical issue, but it's freaking me out. Know a good electrician, Gary. By June, Gary had spent $8,000 on electrical work. The emails detailed every consultation, every theory, every failed solution. 4th electrician today. Same conclusion, nothing wrong. Suggested radio interference from cell tower on Orchard Lake Road. But that doesn't explain every device every night at exactly 3:47 a.m. I'm losing my mind. Gary. August. I haven't slept through the night in 4 months. I'm exhausted. Unplugged everything. Flipped main breaker off. At 3:47 a.m., the battery-powered smoke detectors started chirping. Battery-powered clocks reset themselves. Even my watch started beeping. How do you explain a mechanical watch alarm going off when I never set it? Gary. By October, Gary hired a paranormal investigation team. $3,500 for 3 nights. Their conclusion. We detected significant electromagnetic anomalies throughout the house, but only at exactly 3:47 a.m. Strong EMF spikes, temperature drops, what our medium described as directed malevolent energy. However, we cannot determine a source or cause. Recommend you consult religious authority. Midwest Paranormal Research. Gary hired a priest. The priest performed a blessing. Didn't help. Gary's final email, sent 4 days before he stopped paying the mortgage. I can't do this anymore. I've spent $37,000 trying to fix this. Savings almost gone. Every electrician, every paranormal investigator, every priest, nobody can stop it. Can't sell because I can't explain this to a buyer. Can't afford to keep paying the mortgage and investigating, so I'm making a choice. Letting the house go. Let the bank deal with it. I'm done. Gary. Gary Feldman died February 3rd at 3:47 a.m. Autopsy: acute myocardial infarction, heart attack, likely brought on by chronic sleep deprivation and stress. We still live here. Every night at 3:47 a.m., every electronic device activates. We've spent about $12,000 so far, tried everything Gary tried, had the house blessed, had it cleansed. 6 electricians, 2 paranormal teams, even a physics professor from U of M who wanted to study it. Nothing works, nothing stops it. Kyle moved out, living with friends now, couldn't handle the sleep deprivation. We can't afford to move. We put everything into this house. We're trapped. We understand Gary's choice completely. We're making the same calculation. How long can we afford to keep investigating? How long before our savings run out? How long before we choose between the house and our sanity? Gary chose to leave. 3 months later, he died of a heart attack at the exact time this happens every single night. So we're trapped. If we leave, we lose everything. If we stay, we're doing exactly what Gary did, slowly going broke, slowly losing our minds, waiting for the inevitable. I Googled heart attack statistics once. Your risk increases 30% for every month of chronic sleep deprivation. We've been here 4 months. I think about Gary a lot, about his last night, alone in that apartment, his heart giving out at 3:47 a.m. And I wonder, when it happens to us, will the next owners find our emails? Will they read about our desperate attempts? Or will they be just like we were thinking the previous owners were crazy, thinking they got a great deal, right up until 3:47 a.m. on their 3rd night?